And good afternoon, everybody. I'm Vandersteel back. It is 1 o'clock on Thursday, July 20th, and this is Steel News. We are coming to you live today. But before I get into our show that I've been promoting today, I want to quickly go over why I'm supporting Paul Renner. Because if you're paying attention at all to anything going on, the most important race happening right now across the country is the Florida governor's race. And this man right here, Paul Renner, spell it the same way, forwards and backwards. He was the former Speaker of the House under Ron DeSantis from 2022 to 2024. And I can tell you authentically that I know for sure, because I've done plenty of test posts across my social media platforms, that I know they are intentionally suppressing anything with the word Renner in it. How do I know this? Because I can put up a post about stupid cats and it gets hundreds of thousands of views, or I can mention the word Renner and it gets completely suppressed. And it's not just me, it's happening across the board. But I want to take a second and talk to you about why I'm supporting Paul Renner for governor, because he is actually offering my fellow Floridians more than just campaign slogans and talking points. He's not just throwing haymakers out there. He actually has put forward a written contract with Florida, and he's committed to begin delivering it on day one. The second his hand leaves that Bible after taking the oath with his beautiful wife, Adriana, he's hitting the ground running and calling a special session immediately in the Florida legislature. Paul's going to fight to eliminate property taxes. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, so in case you can't read it, it's a little bit easier for you to read now. He's going to fight to reduce and eliminate property taxes, reduce homeowners' insurance premiums by 20%, lower electric rates, restore our constitutional freedoms, protect medical freedoms, and stop this government surveillance. Most importantly, he's going to impose an immediate moratorium on hyperscale AI data centers that threaten our aquifer, our farmland, our ranchers, and our power grid. Interestingly enough, in case you haven't heard, the Tampa Bay Times put out an article today that said Byron Donalds, who is the heir apparent, according to the Republican Party of Florida, and Susie Wiles, yeah, that's right, Basement Byron, Brooklyn Byron, Data Center Donalds would not even consider debating anybody. And I'll tell you exactly why he wouldn't debate anybody, because he's already lost a debate to Paul Renner. You ask, he has? When did that happen? Well, folks, before the Speaker of the House was chosen again under DeSantis between 2022 and 2024, Byron Donalds and Paul Renner were both vying for that position. They had a debate. Paul Renner smoked him massively. And guess who was appointed Speaker? That's right, Paul Renner, not Byron Donalds. So Byron Donalds now is being challenged massively because the polls are coming out. And we've got another one coming out here, but I'll give you the preliminaries. We're looking at about 35% of the voters in Florida that are totally undecided, mostly because they don't like Byron Donalds. And Byron, who is facing growing opposition over his support for these data centers, is now showing that 68% of Floridians oppose an AI data center near their community, while Byron Donalds receives support from only about 45% in the general election matchup. But that does not mean that these other 50% are undecided. It does mean that the majority are not committed to Byron. So in the Republican primary poll, 31% remain undecided. I'm going to call it about 35. I think we have some polls coming out that are going to show that. That's huge, because once you put a head-to-head between Paul Renner and Byron Donalds, it's a no contest. In fact, every single Florida Republican Executive Committee meeting where Paul Renner has spoken around this state, all the RECs, and there's 67 of them, the straw polls run away with Renner immediately after he speaks. It's no contest, absolutely no contest. So you're getting a lot of chaff and flack right now because of the lawsuit going on between Collins and Fishback. Collins' numbers are plummeting. Fishback is holding on. Why? Because he's just a haymaker, and he's hired the social media assassin of all assassins, Jennings DePriest, who, by the way, worked for the Republican Party of Florida. So isn't it interesting that a guy that worked for the Republican Party of Florida has now been hired by Fishback's team to do text messaging and get information out into the masses? Where is a guy who arguably claimed he was broke in his hearings the last 2 days over the eligibility to be running for governor, period? And he's not eligible. He has broken his residency contract per the Florida Constitution numerous times. That's all aired in the hearings and in the reported information in the courts, all recorded. Where's this guy getting the money? Because he said he was broke. I mean, how is he doing this? So Floridians want to feel safe. They feel safe under DeSantis. They got pulled through COVID. We came out smelling like a rose. A lot of people moved here because Florida was a free state. Still is. And Floridians are looking for a governor who will protect our homes, our land, and our sovereignty. Paul Renner says he's going to give the 9th and 10th Amendment a CrossFit workout daily to protect us from the overarching tyranny and bureaucracy that comes out of Washington, D.C., and anywhere else for that matter. Paul Renner, as the former speaker, as a former commander in the Navy for 23 years, has the experience, the record, and he has a plan to do exactly that. And you see that plan right here on my screen. It's called the 100 days of the first 100 days, the contract with Florida. If you go to voterenner.com, it's up there. I encourage you to look at it. Because one thing I can tell you right now is the state of Florida is not for sale. That's why I'm supporting Paul Renner for governor. All right, moving on. Let's talk about who rewrites history, shall we? Because this is a pretty significant piece of the puzzle of why we are so screwed up. We've been taught that history is created through elections, through social movements, through these courageous leaders, and these grand sweeping moments of destiny. We're also told that the people will rise, candidates will emerge, elections are held, and the nation chooses its course. But what happens when Americans stop accepting all that story time, I call it, at face value? What happens when ordinary citizens begin investigating the institutions that shape what we see, what we believe, and ultimately how we vote? Because I think we now know that we don't have elections, we have selections. So today on this show, we're going to approach those questions through two very different books. Our first guest, William F. Weller, documents his own journey from father and grandfather to self-described digital warrior. The COVID shutdowns caused Bill to question institutions he had once trusted. That awakening led to 5 years of research, rallies, collaboration, constitutional study, and an effort to distinguish documented truth from the carefully managed narratives. And believe me, these narratives are still very carefully managed and they're all over the place. His project eventually grew beyond politics through Living Souls US. Billy has connected his book series to a mission supporting vetted organizations that helped abused and trafficked children recover. Then later on the show, we're going to turn from this autobiography to political fiction. Jack Danger's new novel, By Design, The First Black President, asks a deeply unsettling question. What if America's first Black president did not simply rise through talent, opportunity, and destiny? What if his life, education, public identity, political career, and eventual presidency were engineered through a secret intelligence operation decades in the making? Jack Danger's book is fiction, but the question it raises about propaganda, political grooming, intelligence agencies, manufactured consent, and the illusion of choice, these are all very real. So this afternoon, we're going to examine two journeys into the machinery behind the headlines. One man's search for the hidden story. The other imagined what hidden story might look like if every conspiracy were true. So let's get started. My first guest, William Billy Weller, author and editor of A Digital Warrior, One Man's Journey, and founder and CEO of Living Souls US. Billy is a devoted father and grandfather who says the COVID-19 shutdowns opened his eyes to questions he could no longer ignore. What began as a personal research developed into 5 years of what he describes as digital warfare, challenging mainstream narratives, attending rallies, meeting podcasters like myself along the way, and researchers examining election integrity and studying the relationship between du jour common law and the de facto corporate system. His book series combines autobiography, political commentary, education, satire, faith, and hidden history. But guess what? Bill's work doesn't not end with just exposing the darkness. He has some websites we're going to go over today through Living Souls US. 50% of the royalties from the special edition series are designated to supported, vetted organizations helping abused and trafficked children heal and recover. Billy, it is great to have you. Welcome to Steel News, and thank you so much for the work you're doing to save the children, because the business that we're in at American Made Foundation, our nonprofit, is doing the same thing, trying to free these trafficked children out of the ever most despicable agency of all, CPS. So thank you for being here, and thank you for doing what you do.
Oh, thank you, Ann. That was a beautiful introduction. Thank you very much.
Well, listen, I only hand out praise where praise is due. So I appreciate what you're doing. I want to just kind of get my audience up to speed. Who were you before 2020, and what changed when COVID-19 shut down the country?
Well, my journey started actually back in 2008. And when Barack Obama, Barry, came in, and I watched the whole cartoon show, and I knew right away it was a scam. I was watching Sean Hannity at that time on Fox News, and I could see the writing on the wall with this guy, and so I followed him, through the election and on through till the next 4 years of hell. And then I, of course, even before then, I was into Rush Limbaugh. I was an avid Rush Limbaugh fan and watched Fox
Sure.
News back and all that. Okay, so just fast forward in the 2012, I got into a point where I was getting serious about Obama and what the heck he was doing to our country. And then this led into the going through the years of just following this cartoon guy into 2019, and all of a sudden I started realizing with this COVID stuff that things are really getting serious.
Yeah.
So from 2019 to the end of that period into 2020, I watched the whole process starting with COVID, and then going into the lockdowns, which to me was a joke, with the masks and the 6 feet satanic crap going on. And I resisted all of it. I resisted the whole thing. I just thought, you guys are full of shit. And then it came along where then the lockdowns. Then we get into the Dominion machines, which is all explained in my books, and that leads to the all that fraud. We know about that. And then when the elections happened in November of 2020, and I watched the whole scam going down in real time with the election, the fraudulent election of Joe Biden, which woke me right up. I was up all night watching that, and I saw with my own eyes the whole procedure going on with all of the flipping of votes on Fox News, which is supposed to be on the other side. And this was all going on before my eyes. And I was like, what the heck is going on here? So that immediately was my calling. Our creator, Jesus, came to me, and I felt him. And he said, hey, it's your time to do something. And I answered this call. And I got into the whole process of research over the next 5 years, from November of 2020 all the way through. And I predicted a lot of things that came true with the election of Donald Trump. And I was putting myself on the line with my research.
So Billy, how did your family respond as your personal research became a much larger mission here? Because clearly you just rattled off a lot of stuff. And it's, when you think back like what we've just been through for the past 10 years, really, it's the fire hose. I mean, I feel like we've lived multiple lifetimes. I feel like I'm a cat on my 9th life at this point. So, did your family, how did they absorb all this, and what did they think?
Well, it was really hard because first of all, my family is disconnected from all of this stuff. It's like so many out there in our country, they don't have a clue what's going on with anything. So they just go about their business, doing the things they do in life, trying to eke a living. And when all this stuff happened with COVID and the shots, my daughter and my grandson didn't listen to me after I gave them all the information that they needed to show them that this was a bad thing to do with the poison.
Sure.
Yeah, and so they but they went ahead anyway, and it got really serious. I was going through a deep mental depression with all that stuff.
I believe it.
But they stayed away from me. They distanced themselves from me, and they allowed me to continue my stuff. And believe me, they're not on the same side as I am.
So let me ask you something, because and Deb, yes, thank you for chiming in here. I appreciate that. We got comments coming in from Facebook and X right now, but how do you evaluate evidence and distinguished, I guess, credible information from all the speculation circulating online? Because social media is very dangerous. If you're looking for truth, it's out there, but your discernment has got to be in hyperdrive. I mean, you've really got to be tuned in to finding the truth.
Oh, I was tuned in. Yeah.
How'd you get there?
Well, it all started really with Charlie Ward. Really, I mean, he's the guy that got me started. And then I went into watching Sasha Stone and the Manchester Gun Club. They had the original rally with Steele and Sheriff Mack, and I went to that. And this led to all of the other rallies. Brad Barton, that his rally that I saw you, and I was up there with you as you were on stage. and then I met Mel K there, and then that morphed into the rallies in Tennessee with Chaz Carter and the PPN with Warren at that
Sure.
wonderful meeting we had, and
You
I got to
circulated
talking to you.
everywhere. I love
I
it.
got to talking to you again. I talked to you more at that rally, which was really cool. But we were talking about David Lester Straight, remember?
Yeah.
And that whole thing with common law and stuff. So you led me in the right direction, and I was trying to find answers. Well, that led me into more rallies with Clay Clark, and then of course I went to Charlie Ward's Truther Conference, last May. In between all that, I was involved in politics. I was in the Wisconsin de jure assembly, it was kind of like going back to the Tea Party days of 1776. And we were fighting the resistance with Tony Evers and all that BS corporate stuff. And I was elected as Chief Justice for the state of Wisconsin to swear in the different counties and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So I got involved in that process. Well, the infiltrators came in, and they just come in like crazy. Evil doesn't take a holiday, and
No.
they came in and they kicked me out illegitimately. So I got it's all in my book about the
Yeah.
incident at Arpin. Yeah.
So I want to ask you a specific question because you just mentioned it a minute ago, talking about common law. In your work, you actually examine the de jure common law operating within what you describe as a de facto corporate system.
Correct.
Explain that distinction for our audience here in language that the average American can understand, because not everybody's familiar with those terms.
Okay. Well, we are living in a parallel system right now. I look at it as a train going down the tracks, and there's two trains that are rushing down the tracks.
Mm-hmm.
One is the train with the corporate de facto, which is what we're under now as the United States of America corporation,
Mm-hmm.
and the other one is is under common law in a constitutional republic. And that's where we're going to. We're heading into that area. But the trouble we're having for everybody here is that these two trains are set to collide. They're running straight on at 150 miles an hour down these tracks. And we're in the middle of it all. We're trying to disseminate between what's common law in a constitutional republic and what's de facto law. And it's hard because we're getting all this terminology.
So what do you think the Americans are misunderstanding about this relationship between government authority and individual sovereignty?
I don't think they understand it. I don't think they're getting enough. They're not involved enough. Look at the audiences that watch all of the podcasters, and I'm talking about the big ones: Scott McKay, Nino Rodriguez, Charlie Ward. All you. They're all looking at you guys as entertainment. It's not like we want to get involved. They'll go about their day when they're done watching, and things are back to normal. And so in the meantime, we're doing the word salad game between us, and everybody's mixed up. It's all confusion.
Right.
Right. I mean, that's really the essence to me. We've got to get back to where we're going and get the train.
So how can we incentivize Americans? Because there is a practical difference that this knowledge can make in everyday Americans' life. What is that practical difference if you have this knowledge?
Well, I tell you what'll help change. Go to the bank and try drawing out your money. And the bank will say, "Sorry, we can't give you your money today." And they'll learn real quick what's going on, because they're going to find out that the QFS is going to click in, and this whole thing with the current currency crap is going to go away with the Federal Reserve.
Right.
So that's a good way to wake up.
All right. So let's talk about your books here, because you started out writing A Digital Warrior, One Man's Journey. It's a part autobiography, part commentary, part education, part satire. Was there a reason you chose that specific format?
Yes, because I want people to become engaged, like I was saying, instead of just sitting around watching you guys as entertainment. So what I'm doing in my 10-book series is I'm trying to help engage everybody And I'm starting with those who have watched the podcasters, because I look at everybody as our extended family all over the country and the world. And by following my book series, you'll learn what the top podcasters of the world are doing to help you, the listeners, you, the American people, the living souls, I like to use that term, you'll learn more about what you can do to become engaged. But my books are going to help you. They're going to lead you down that path of engagement based on what I experienced in my life and what I went through in personal. I put a lot of personal things in my books about my Bell's palsy that I recently had, and about the assembly and my views on politics and stuff. And yeah.
So, Billy, who did you write this series for then? Did you write it for the people who already share your conclusions, or the people who are beginning to question institutions, or just flat out skeptics?
No, I wrote it first of all, I wrote it for the audiences of all of the great podcasters, because they deserve to have a record. And it's like a little Encyclopedia Britannica, actually. And it goes through a timeline through the 4 years, the crucial 4 years in my book, from when Biden was fraudulently elected. Derek Johnson gets in the military law really nice on all this stuff. And so this is all
How come we haven't seen that really come to fruition yet, the military law side of it?
Because it's not being talked about enough.
Oh, okay. So this is really, this is up to the people then to
got to get involved. Yeah, they got to get engaged.
But how can the people get involved in the UCMJ aspect of things?
The what?
Into military law. How can the people get involved in military law?
Well, in my book, I talk about the top podcasters in chapter 2. And I talk about Derek Johnson a lot and how he helped to define what was going on with Biden. And it was a military funeral. It was a fraudulent inauguration, you guys.
Right.
It was, and we all know this. The ones that follow the top podcasters, they already know this stuff. So what I'm doing is I'm honoring the top podcasters and all of the audiences that watch them. And then I'm hoping that when you get my books and you understand that half of my royalties are going to be going toward the children, you'll start getting my books, because they're going to be released 2 books every month from now till November. And then I'll have the whole 10-book series all out there for a Merry Christmas present. And then boom, then we can start rocking and rolling, man. But during this journey, I'm going to be talking about all this stuff during the timeline.
So how do you expose wrongdoing without allowing any sort of anger, fear, or hatred to consume the mission of what you're on to educate people?
Okay. I use sarcasm in my book, but I use it in such a way where it helps to bring us together. I am not a fan of division and hate. I am involved in our Creator who lives within. I'm a spiritual, living soul. I'm not a dead entity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, under chattel property be traded, and I know you get into all this stuff, and a lot of us know that. I talk about what's inside of us and how we can bring it out, and my books are going to help you to guide you along to without having to get into all of the negative stuff, but look at the positive side of what we have as knowledge that we can educate those who do not understand or don't know. There are going to be a certain element that don't know anyway, and we just have to let them go. That's what I call the lefty bots. I call them lefty bots in my book.
Right.
Okay.
So how do you? So out of curiosity, how do you? I mean, I guess not how. Explain the mission of Living Souls, and why your mission of child recovery became its central purpose.
You bet. You bet. I was deeply moved by the satanic cults and all of the child abuse and the adrenochrome and all these sacrifices and what they were doing to our children, because our children are our future. If we don't have our children out there and we don't have families who are making babies, we're screwed for generations to come.
Yeah.
And so we got to get back to being families here and having children and showing love and all this. Yeah, that's what this is all about.
I completely agree with you. What accountability measures will ensure that the funds are used for children rather than being consumed by administration or mismanagement? Because we
Right.
have seen a lot of grifting, fleecing, and lying, mostly by the federal government. I would say 99.9% of it by the federal government, but it happens out here in social media land as well. So, how do people get sort of feel comfortable
Okay.
that by
Okay.
reading your books, they're supporting
Right.
what you claim to be the most important? Which I agree, children are the future.
All right. First of all, I want to tell everybody here that we're transparent. First of all, we don't take donations. We don't take donations. Everything is done through the sales of my books.
Okay.
So Patsy Coleman, who's the director of operations for Living Souls US or us, is an association. It is a 508. Now I have to look at my thing. 508C1A.
Right.
And so we're separate from getting taxed and all this other BS.
Right.
And we're transparent. We're open. Everything that we're doing for the children is going to be based upon the sales of my books.
Right.
Okay, so I don't have to account to anybody really if I don't want to. But you know what? I want to be transparent. I want everybody to get involved. You can always write to us if you want, and we'll tell you what's going on. Patsy and her daughter Tricia are putting together a horse farm right up in the Manitowoc area, and they're going to be helping children with the horses, and they've already got this set up. So this is going to be the starting point for us. And we want to take control over this. We're really kind of veering away from allowing others to handle my funds that I'm getting.
Sure.
I want to be able to control this stuff so that the money's going to where it should go.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who knows something is terribly wrong with everything in the world right now, but basically feels too overwhelmed or powerless to even begin asking questions?
Read my books. Get my first two books. The first one here. Here, you see that?
Mm-hmm.
That one is the introduction. That is where we talk about I'm laying the foundation of the house. So we lay the foundation and we talk about, the podcasters, and we talk about what's going on with the elections and all the base stuff. And then and I do it in such a way where I engage them in some satire. Like I have this little bit about the shots, the poison, and I go back and forth with the CDC, and it gets funny in the beginning. So I get people loosened up. I want to get people loosened up and lightened up, and to have them engage in that way. Because when you're looking at podcasts, I don't. This is not a cut on you or anybody else, but there's too many commercials in between everything, and you get distracted, or the video or the sound gets goofy. In a book, you can read a book. You don't get distracted with a book. You can sit down whenever you want.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's very true.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Billy, I really appreciate you coming on and allowing us to be the podcast you chose to at least get your books launched out there into the public. Thanks for sharing your journey and for directing that work towards helping the most vulnerable, our children. I think our children and our elderly are seriously under attack by the system, by a corporate system. Yeah. Not by the people, but by a very evil corporate system, which is completely strayed from the Constitution. It's a public-private partnership of agency governments that has nothing to do with what our founding fathers dreamed of, drafted, and constituted when those 56 men signed their lives, fortunes, and sacred honors. It's truly remarkable how far we've come. Yeah. Our republic is there, but it is completely smothered by U.S. code and agency government. So these books, I think, will be a wonderful education for people. You've tapped into some of the best, most popular voices out there to, get this information, but to also educate people on the difference between the de jure in the living and de facto, which is the fake fiction. And we have a living government, which is our republic, and we have this fake fiction, which is this corporate stuff. Corporations are fiction. So I think it's wonderful that you're taking the time to explain all that. So guys, if you want to pick up copies of this book, it's in the show notes on Rumble. It's also streaming on the ticker below, but it's digitalwarrior17.com or livingsoulsus.com if you want to pick up copies of the books there. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, God bless you guys.
God bless you too. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Truly. I love the spirit of that man. What a beautiful soul himself to take the time and as this journey he went on, we all went on the journey. It's what did we do with the journey while we were on it to make it meaningful and impactful and to help others share and grow. I think it's amazing. So anyhow, all right, our next guest is in the digital green room right now. He's taking the question of hidden power and places it inside a fictional world that may feel uncomfortably familiar. Perhaps you recognize, let's see if I can pull it up here. Oopsie, remove that, put that on there. Okay. You might recognize this cover. It's out circulating right now on the internet. It's a hot seller at the moment. Jack Danger is a hot guy with a hot X account. I don't mean that in the wrong way, by the way. He's got a Smoking X account. He's always breaking incredible news. But he's the author of By Design, the first Black president and host of Secret America Live, airing weekdays at 7 o'clock. I've had the pleasure of being a guest on his show. He's a wonderful host. He does his research. He's great. And I say all that because his novel begins during the Cold War with Project Orpheus, which is a fictional covert CIA program operating deep beneath the Langley. I got a funny story about Langley one day, but not today. One intelligence officer is handed an extraordinary assignment: do not simply influence history, create it. Well, doesn't that really kind of feel like what we've been living through? We're now waking up to the fact that the CIA has been creating our history. So the operation carefully constructs the childhood, education, ideology, relationships, public identity, political career, and eventual presidency of America's first Black commander-in-chief. The book is a work of fiction by Jack Danger, but it draws readers into the very real questions about intelligence operations, propaganda, political grooming, psychological manipulation, election influence, and manufactured consent. Jack describes the novel as the story of America's first Black president, told as if the conspiracy theories surround his rise were reality. Jack, welcome to Steel News. It is great to have you here. I appreciate being a guest on your show, but I think this novel you've written is going to be probably the one novel that gets people to wake up to who Barack Insane Obama actually was, the Manchurian Candidate. So thank you for agreeing to come on the show and working with me as I've been kind of all over the place.
Oh yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me. And it was funny, the middle name. You said Insane, right? Is that what you said?
I do. I say Barack Insane Obama. Yeah.
I love that. And I got to say though, when you first introduced me and you said a hot guy and then you clarified it to say that I'm, it's not about him being hot. I was kind of disappointed. When you said hot guy, I was like, oh, that's awesome. And then she said, no, I don't mean it like that.
Well, it's the kid's show, kind of, not really, but I try to keep it PG here. There's plenty of other people who can go way past PG, although language can go R. I'm okay with that. But anyway, besides the politics and social media is full with enough smut. I don't need to contribute to it, though. You're a very handsome young man. We'll leave it at that. So Jack, let's dive into this book here, because your book really begins with a very serious question. And frankly, I think President Trump in 2013 questioned Barack Obama's birth certificate, and that went all over the internet a long time before Trump ever ran for office. So the question in your book is, what if history wasn't made but engineered? Where did that idea come from?
Honestly, it comes from the show, because we delve into a lot of conspiracies like this, ones that are more based in reality, because there's a lot of conspiracies out there that are just, they're absolutely insane. But then there's more that are based in reality. I would have to say that in the past 6 years since COVID, conspiracy theorists are probably like 72-0 at this point. Conspiracy theorists is now I now associate it with truth teller. Whenever I hear conspiracy theorists, I think truth teller, because obviously the CIA coined that term to try to discredit people that were telling the truth back in the JFK era. But this book is it's really amazing and compelling, and it's a lot of fun because everybody knows the conspiracy theories surrounding Barack Obama. And real quick, before I keep going, I got to say two things. One, I'm not allowed to use his name and likeness. So that's why you see a generic person on the cover, and it's not Barack Obama on the cover. And that's why you see in the book, his name is not Barack Obama. It's Baram Obaka, if that's kind of funny to me, because, it kind of switches.
I know. You remind me of stuff my mother used to do. It's great. I love it. You just wordsmith stuff. And frankly, I mean, I'm not saying that looks like Barack Insane Obama from the back to me, but hey, a lot of people could look like that, I suppose.
It very well, yeah. It looks like it could be him, but it could be anybody. That's the thing. But the reason I say that, and that I also say that it is a fictional book, is obviously, for legal reasons. But I will say that I probably know more about Barack Obama than anybody else on the face of the earth now, because in order to write this book, I had to do hundreds of hours of research, because every single thing that you see in here, the timeline, like when he was born, when he met his wife, when all these other things happened, every single thing in the timeline is 100% correct. Every location, every time, every date, because in order for this to be believable, in order for this to be real, everything has to line up like it does in real life. And these conspiracies that you hear, whether it's the birth certificate, whether it's, unseen powers that guided him toward the presidency, such as an intelligence agency, whether it's, his spouse or his children, whether all these things are conspiracies, people have heard the main conspiracies of these, but they don't know the inner workings of how they happen or what went on in order for these conspiracy theories to be true. If we're going to say that they're true,
Right.
most people don't know what went into them. The amazing thing is that this book tells it as a cinematic novel, like a movie playing in your head. It does not talk at you, and it doesn't tell you like, this is what happened, this is what happened, and this is what happened. It's a dialogue, an actual, between characters. It's an actual novel where you get to see every single event unfold as it normally would in a movie.
Sure. Fascinating. Well, you've clarified why you made it fiction. You're just trying to protect yourself from legal attacks, but you're very clear and honest in the fact that you say you know more about Barack Hussein Obama than most anybody because you spent hundreds of hours researching to make this quote nonfiction book. So let's talk about a couple of things here. One, why did you set the program's origin? Why did you set Project Orpheus? What is it? But why did you also set it in the Cold War time frame? Project Orpheus. What is it, and why during the Cold War?
Well, a lot of people believe there's a big conspiracy theory surrounding the first black president, and from here on, I'm gonna say the first black president instead of the name for the reasons that I said before. And the only other moniker that anybody knows him by is the first black president. So that's the only other thing I could say, and you'd know
Right.
exactly who I'm talking about. So the many people believe the conspiracy that the first black president was actually guided by an intelligence agency to get to where he was. I mean, here you've got a man who has like the perfect speech ability, public speaking. I mean, he knows exactly what to say. He knows body language. He knows every little thing that you could know about what people want. He becomes the person that you want him to be, depending on who he's in front of. And
Mhm.
he comes out of nowhere to ascend to the presidency, by the way, by a speech, one speech
I know.
at, I think it was the 2004 Democratic National Convention, the Audacity of Hope speech that
Yep.
catapulted him into the national, archive. It's unbelievable. But it started in the Cold War, and before he was even born, this book starts in the Cold War with his grandfather named Stanley, who was actually in the CIA. And everybody that's in this book, other than Barack Obama, everybody that's in this book has the same first name as they do in real life, just a different last name.
Got
Okay,
it.
so Stanley was his grandfather in real life, and he was in the CIA. And that's where this starts, because if people are going to believe that this person was guided to get to where he is, he would have had to have been trained and coached for a long period of time. So Project Orpheus is the project where the CIA finally says, look, I'm tired of installing regimes. I'm tired of installing dictators. I'm tired of, trying to bribe or blackmail presidents, because eventually something goes wrong. Eventually, either they get ambitions of their own, or they decide to just to get away from it all. But if you
D-
can guide somebody, I'm sorry, go
yeah.
ahead.
No, go ahead. If you can guide somebody.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you can guide somebody from, when they're a child up to the presidency, not only can you get them, you can mold them in the way that you want them to be. They're no longer going to have, ambitions of their own or this or that, because with enough training, the CIA can get you to be who they want you to be, especially if they have you from your childhood.
Sure, sure. So in this book, does the central character know that he's being cultivated? Does Baram Obaka know that he's being cultivated, or does he believe that his rise is entirely authentic? Like, does he believe the bullshit?
Well, I tell you what, I'll give this part away. At first, he does not know, but he does find out. I want to say midway through his teenage years, he does find out, and the way he finds out is pretty incredible. But at first, he doesn't know, because when you're a child and you're guiding somebody, you don't really want to tell them, because then they're going to have all these kinds of questions. But
Sure.
once he finds out, he actually starts to get into it, and believe it or not, that intensifies his training.
So we saw the quote elite universities during Barack Obama's presidency, the real Obama or whatever he was. We saw
Hmm.
those universities, their endowments ballooned, and there was a lot of federal money going into these universities. What role would you say the elite universities play in identifying and developing future political leaders? How involved
I'd
are
say
they?
Yeah, no. I'd say they play a pretty major role because if you notice, a lot of them, a lot of the future leaders come from, the major universities, whether it's Harvard or Yale, like the Skull and Bones Society and things like
Hmm.
that, the Bushes of the world. I would say they play a pretty big part, especially in helping mold them to get them over to a certain way of thinking because the college itself is unimportant. I mean, you can get this pretty much the same education at any major four-year university. You don't have to go to Harvard or Yale, but they go there purposefully because if you're going to be in that situation, if you want to be where they are, you have to be in that club. And in order to be in that club, you have to be, you have to have gone to certain universities or you have to have, a certain back history with your family. So that's the main reason I think. And it molds them in terms of thought process, but it's more about appearance and perception because these days, especially, perception is reality.
Great point. And that's a good segue to my next question. We've seen sort of, like today, Hunter Biden has an X account that's on fire and he posts some spicy stuff. We all saw Sleepy Joe Biden for 4 years. Nobody believed that Basement Biden got elected. We all know it was a selection. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Tina Peters went to prison for it. But, do you think that charisma and empathy for an individual or even a candidate's personal struggles, like, Sleepy Joe, who was clearly just out to lunch half the time, his son was a drug addict, all this, do you think those can be designed as part of this political product for the theater of it to get certain people to want to get behind you because they feel sorry for you and your family situation and like, oh, they're so real because they have families with kids that are drug addicts and whatever? I mean, do you think that's part of this manufactured process to get a Manchurian candidate?
Absolutely, those things can be manufactured, but excuse me. The main thing here is that can get you only so far, though, in terms of empathy, sympathy, or feeling bad for someone. That can only get you so far. What you want is someone that is going to tell people what they want to hear. And Barack Obama, the first black president, was someone who was coached and to actually be able to read people. He could read a room, he could read a specific person, whether it's their body language, whether it's their cadence, whether it's what they're saying, whether it's just eye contact or movement. He was got to where he could discern every little thing about a person or a crowd and tell them exactly what they want to hear. Now, I will say that the family life can also be designed because in this book you will see that his family life, his personal family life, was designed, and that's a big part of another conspiracy theory. Whether it's the kids or whether it's the gender of his spouse, these things were all designed. And how they were, everybody knows or at least believes that these things were designed, but how is what's in this book. That's the amazing part. I can tell you the ending of the book because the ending of the book is not what matters. The ending of the book is him being inaugurated as president in 2008. But
Right,
that's not it's not going to be some major twist. Everybody already knows that. But what
right.
you don't know is how he got
How?
there, how these things happened. And the best part is it's not a book that's going to spout off how. It's a book that's going to play like a movie in your head. And each person gets to play that movie the way they want. That's the beauty of a cinematic novel. I'm not showing you a picture. I'm telling you what's going on, and you're picturing it in your head
Right.
however you want to. So it's better than a movie, really, because you get to picture it however you want.
So is controlling what voters know more powerful than controlling how ballots are actually counted? Because we all know how the movie ended.
Hmm.
Insane was elected. So
No, I've got to say, being able to control how the ballots are counted is even more important because back then, I mean, let's be honest, his opponent, John McCain, was not the best opponent. Okay, I
no,
mean, I'm on the
Thornburg.
right, but he wasn't a great opponent. A lot of people thought he was a traitor. I'm not going to go down that road though, but I will say that what happened was he was the right person at the right time. They put him there at the right time at that specific time because he was young. He could have waited to run for another decade or more. but they put
Right.
him at that specific time because there was no great opponent, because the country needed what it needed at that time, especially considering the crisis, the major financial crisis that was happening, surrounding 2008 and everything that was going on. So he was the one that they coached him to give hope and change. That was his thing. Oh, hope and change. We're going to move America forward, past the crisis, past all these other things. And that's what people needed to hear at the time.
So looking at, in hindsight, being 2020, we think, does, Operation Morpheus, well, we're just going to throw it under Operation Morpheus and let people read the book and learn more about that. But does an operation like what we witnessed and have witnessed now and are seeing more clearly now to get certain candidates elected, does that actually serve a political party, or does it serve a permanent power structure above both parties? Because we originally, as a nation, got away from the Tories and the Whigs when we declared our independence. We didn't have a two-party system. That came later on in the 1800s. So is this because we're trying to serve a permanent power structure above this, quote, manufactured party system?
Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you how I know that there is a manufactured power system above even the two parties. A lot of people don't know this, but on one of our previous episodes of Secret America, my co-host Jay Gatling and I actually found a video of a 12-year-old girl that had put together a genealogy. All right. And what we did was we went through that genealogy and we made sure that every bit of it was correct. And then we took it a step further because hers ended years ago. So we took it a step further with Trump and Biden and everybody else. So the reason I know there's a permanent power structure above party is that let's just say there's 46 presidents, right? Because there's two presidents that were, two separate ones. Like Trump was 45 and 47, and Grover Cleveland was whatever, like 11 and 13 or whatever it is. So let's say there's 46 presidents. 45 of the 46 presidents, and this is going to blow your mind, are all related by blood. I mean, Trump and Obama are cousins. It doesn't matter if doesn't matter if they're distant cousins. Trump and Obama. The only person that was not related by blood is Martin Van Buren, and the only reason he won is because it was the 1830s and there was no Republican Party, and the Democrat Party ran one candidate, Martin Van Buren, against 6 different Whig candidates, which is it's 6 different Whig candidates, which, when you run 6 candidates for one party, that you're not going to get anybody that can win, on a consensus. So it's pretty amazing that that's what happened. And he only won one term. After that, they got it together and they made sure nobody else won. So when I say that they're all related, I mean every single one of them by blood, not by some random marriage or something. Every single one, from George Washington, John Adams, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, even Joe Biden and Donald Trump are cousins, blood cousins. No matter how far back it goes, they're blood cousins. Every single one of them is related to King John Lackland, who signed the Magna Carta in 1215. And that actually, believe it or not, this president's being related, and John Lackland signing the Magna Carta is going to be another book that I'm going to write, because By Design is not just one book. By Design is actually a series of where what I do is I write the books as cinematic novels as if the conspiracy theories were true. So the next book I'm actually doing is called By Design, The Viral Vote. And that book is about, I'm just going to tell you how it starts. It starts with America manufacturing COVID in a secret Ukraine biolab, dropping it off and releasing it in Wuhan in order to alter the outcome of the 2020 election and bring in lockdowns, and then also administer a vaccine to cull the population of undesirable people. It is going to be an incredible book, but that's why I say that the first Black president is really the subtitle of the book, if you will. By Design is actually going to be a series that I plan on writing for everything. After that one, I'm going to write about the Charlie Kirk murder, going to write about January 6th, anything that people believes happened a different way than the official narrative shows. I'm going to be writing about it for everybody to see.
That's fantastic. Thank you for doing this. Hopefully this will reach the other people who are either tuned out or just believe the media slop that they're served up on a daily basis, because that narrative is just complete fake news. I want to get back to power. I want to ask you, who possesses the greatest power in your story? Is it the president? Is it the intelligence officials? Is it the financiers, aka the bankers, media executives, or is it the people who designed this entire operation?
It's the handful of people in a basement with no windows at Langley CIA headquarters that actually have the most power. They're the ones that even the CIA director doesn't know about. They're the ones that most of the CIA does not know about. They're like it's like a rogue. I don't want to say rogue because they still work for the CIA, but they're like a black ops thing that, you know how you see the black ops budget that goes through Congress, how most of the time they actually vote on things that they're not even able to see. I mean, they're not actually able to see the budget number of certain black ops budgets. They just vote on it and they always vote yes, no matter what the budget is, because they can't see it. That's kind of what this thing is. It's one of those black ops operations where it's just a handful of people that know, but they're the ones with the power. Why? Because they have the power of the federal government behind them. Anything
Mhm.
that they want, they can get it, whether it's a fake birth certificate, whether
Yeah.
it's training somebody to do this, whether it's kidnapping somebody off the street and having some kind of a cover story saying they're gone for a week or a month to do whatever. When you have a powerful entity like the government behind you who gets to craft official narrative, they craft the official narrative, they tell you what to believe. When you have them, you are the most powerful entity.
Yeah, I have to tell you, from where I'm sitting, to me, it's always been the intelligence community that is
Yep.
powered by the bankers, the financiers. And so, if you think the intelligence community, based on your research, is sitting in the basement of the CIA, and that the CIA director doesn't know they're sitting there and what they're doing, okay, I can't prove that one way or the other. I haven't done any research in that particular area with respect to your point, but I do believe the intelligence. I mean, this is why JFK was so. This is why he was assassinated. He was going to scatter them into the wind.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah. By the
General
CIA.
Mike
Now, I'm
Flynn,
not
same
saying that
thing.
they're not, but the
Card,
banks. I just didn't go that far in the book. What I'm talking about is
right,
strictly in the book that
right.
this handful of people in the CIA are the ones that are the most powerful. But I didn't go as far back as like the bankers who controls the actual people that are in that handful of people. I didn't go that far. It just
Sure.
starts with those people. So those are the most powerful people in the book. But I have no doubt that the people like in the Federal Reserve and whatnot and other banks,
Do
the
you
World Bank and all that.
do you think we're ever going to see a president stand up and threaten his creators, the people that created the timeline and the narrative that back up that particular individual who's sitting in that seat? Will we ever see a president in our lifetime stand up and rebel? And that's number one. Number two, is Trump of a machination of the same operation, the same architecture?
I will say number one, no. And the reason no is because they all look back at the last person that tried to do it and he got his skull blown away in front of, 100 million people. So, that's there. Then nobody's going to challenge
So
it
is
that
Trump a
far again.
product of the machine? Is he
I don't want to say he's a product of the machine, but I will say that I looked into when I said all the presidents were related, I looked into the odds that all of them were related and then became presidents simply by chance. That 45 of the 46 presidents are related by blood and simply became, president by chance. It was 1 in 96 quintillion. That means it's impossible. So, do I know if he is, if he has been molded by certain people? Do I know if he's been created by certain powers? I don't know. But what I can tell you is I do believe, whether he knows it or not, I don't know if he knows it or not, but he is part of the same conspiracy that has the Plantagenet bloodline become the president. And for people that think that sounds insane, I want you to go to Grok or whatever it is, go to any AI and just type in just a simple thing. You can say, just put two people together. You can say, like, are Donald Trump and Barack Obama cousins through King John Lack? That's all you got to say. And you can say that about anybody and then ask how many presidents are related by blood through King John Lackland. And you'll see it's everybody but one. And when I say that that's impossible, people don't understand how big of a number quintillion is. Okay, you've got
right?
million, billion, trillion, quadrillion, and then quintillion. It's an impossible number. So you got quintillion, and then you've got 96 quintillion. It's just impossible.
Oops, that's odd. Huh, how I did that. Barack Obama. I'm asking if Barack Obama and Trump are related by blood.
Well, it's
Let's
going to
see.
say no at first because you got to put. See, Grok is a very little. AIs are very literal, so you're going to want to put. Related by blood through. Oh, well, it already says yes. Okay,
Yeah.
there you go.
by very remote cousins. Genealogical research shows they share common European ancestors from many generations back, making them approximately 26th cousins, 4 times removed. This connection runs through Obama's white maternal line, Stanley Ann Dunham's European ancestry, and Trump's Scottish maternal line, Mary Ann McLeod.
By the way, you see where it says Stanley? It runs through the maternal line of Stanley, his grandfather that was in the CIA.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Incredible.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. These are incredible times in which we're living through, to be honest. It's just absolutely wild. All right. What do you want readers to question after they close the final chapter of your book?
Honestly, I'd like them to question the things that happened during his presidency, because this goes from, you know, right before he was born all the way up to his inauguration. And I'm thinking about, eventually, it's not going to be the next book, but I'm thinking about writing another one of these, like the first Black president, like part 2 or something, where it starts from his 2008 inauguration and goes all the way through Biden's presidency, because Biden's presidency, I personally believe, was guided by Obama, who was guided by these unseen powers, but before he became president. So, you know, I would like people to, whatever they see in this book, you know, you can believe it or not, do the research. I did hundreds of hours of research. Every single one of the conspiracies that are in this book are hypotheses, educated guesses based on tons of research. And the conspiracies that I address in this book are the major ones that are believed by the average person, or at least well known by the average person. And you can do, you know, as much research as you want. I pieced together every little thing. And I would say 75% of the things in this book are true, are real. You know, it's just the conspiracies that, you know, you have to kind of, I guess, connect the dots in, you know, based on research. So, but the book is fictional. And again, I have to say that for legal reasons, but if you go to secretamericalive.com, you can get the book, a signed copy. There's 2 buttons: one to buy a signed copy where I write a personal message, or 2 where you can get it straight from Amazon or on Kindle. And you don't have to have a Kindle device to buy Kindle. The app is free on any device. You buy it on Kindle, you get the free Kindle app, and you can read it anywhere.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Jack, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a fascinating conversation. You're a very bright young man. Definitely handsome. I don't want to take that away.
Thank you. That's what I was waiting for. And thank you very much. Now I can go happily.
Now you can be happy. Okay. So truly, thank you for joining us. Giving our readers, quote, a fictional framework for legal purposes only, through which to examine some, I would say, some really real questions about the power and perception of how these people get here. I mean, how do we end up with
today your birthday? I don't mean to interrupt you. Is today your birthday?
No, I don't know what it did. I made this weird sign, and it made balloons.
Wow.
I don't know why
that
I did that.
All the balloons. I was going to say happy birthday, but
no, it was June 23rd. It's passed. Thank God. It was a month ago today. Cool. It was a month ago today. So I've had a grandbaby born between then. It was awesome. So listen, your book, By Design, The First Black President, it's available on Amazon with signed copies and some more information available at secretamericalive.com. So you can see it streaming on the ticker below. And you guys can follow Jack on X at Jack Danger Live. Jack Danger Live. Jack, thanks so much for being here. Truly, truly appreciate your time and your dedication to what you're doing. It's fabulous to see the young guys coming up here and taking over, so we older people can like sunset ourselves a little bit now. We don't have to work as hard.
Older people, you don't look old at all, Ann. Come on now, we can't say older people here.
I you know what? I try to stay in shape. It's all I can say, but I'm pretty
well,
old.
It works for you, so that's good. I just want to say real quick, thank you to everybody that got the book and watches the show. And you can follow my co-host also, Jay Gatling at Opinionsvary on X with an A, Opinionsvary. So thank you very much, Ann. I really
Jack,
appreciate
it's awesome to see you. Thank you for making this fit in your schedule too, by the way. I appreciate you.
Hey, no problem. You have a great day. You
too. Awesome. Wow. 2 authors, 2 very different books, 1 central question. Who's writing the history we're living through? I mean, I know Jack wrote one through fiction, but we all know, I'm going to put it fiction in air quotes. Anyhow, I want to thank Bill Weller for his journey, William F. Weller, the gentleman we had on the first segment, because his journey began when the COVID shutdowns caused him to question institutions and narratives he had previously accepted. Hadn't we all accepted the BS? And his search, like many others, led him into a constitutional history, which I learned a lot about, corrected my status, made it very public on my shows. He learned all about media manipulation. We've all learned about the fake news, how the elections are selections, and faith, and ultimately on a mission to help abused and trafficked children heal, which is what I'm working at. on through AmericanMadeFoundation.org. And then, of course, you just saw Jack Danger. Who doesn't love Jack Danger? He approaches the hidden power through fiction in his book called By Design, The First Black President, and imagines an intelligence operation that doesn't merely support a political candidate, it manufactures one, carefully engineering his identity, education, relationships, public image, and ultimately a path to the White House. Now, Jack's story is fictional for legal reasons only. Billy's book presents his personal experiences and conclusions. But both of these authors remind us that questioning a narrative is only the beginning. The harder responsibility is evaluating evidence, separating documented fact from theory, and admitting when we're wrong. I've had retractions before. If you follow me a long time, you know that. And continuing to search for truth without surrendering our judgment to any institution, personality, or political party. Because, folks, your freedom requires more than just getting yourself online. You've got to have discernment, because what you can read is not always what the truth is. It takes courage to kind of dive a little deeper on maybe take an opinion of something and put it out there when it's the most unpopular opinion or you're the only opinion. But it also requires you, the people, citizens, willing to ask who benefits from the story that they're being told. I'd like to thank you guys for joining me. I'm Ann Vandersteel. This is my show, Steel News. I've been doing this for about 10 years. It's a great honor to be talking to you today. Keep asking questions, keep demanding evidence, keep protecting the innocent. And don't forget, we have an election here in Florida. And I really need you guys to pay attention to what's happening with Paul Renner's campaign. We have a poll coming out on Thursday. You're going to start to see a lot more information coming up about Paul because he has been so silenced. But thanks to some incredible folks that have just all volunteers. I'm a volunteer. I wear this stuff. I pound signs in because I believe in him. He is my guy that is going to stand on the 9th, the 10th Amendment and keep Florida free. So when the federal government sends us another manufactured dope to sit in the Oval Office like Barack and St. Obama, we can put the kibosh in our hand up and say, talk to the hand, feds. We're Florida. We're free. And we're not listening to your crap. The only thing that we'll pay attention to is anything in the Constitution that you defend will honor and abide by. Everything else, pound sand. That's where I stand. That's where Paul Renner stands. God bless that man. And God bless you. And God bless our great state of Florida and America. Have a great afternoon, everybody.